Hello everyone, bringing you a video today talking about this. Now this is something which could not really be talked about with a full set of equipment on the mannequin, and we'll get onto that in the reason for that in a minute or two. This is the British Army's Body Armour Mark II, also known as INIBA or Improved Northern Ireland Body Armour. I've also seen it referred to as individual Northern Ireland Body Armour, but Improved Northern Ireland Body Armour seems to be the real name behind that acronym. It's an updated body armour vest essentially, intended for use in Northern Ireland to replace the preceding designs which had been in use, which were based upon both the US M1952A and the three-quarter collar body armour that had been around for many years prior, of course, the M1952A dating back to the latter days of career and the three-quarter collar being introduced in the 1960s. Now, the British Army had introduced various different covers for these, so in various photographs you'll see a wide range of different covers, some with shoulder stops later on, some with different methods of fastening down the front and so forth. But this was a wholly new design, not just an updated cover. The filler inside this is made of ballistic nylon, and it also includes, as a major advance in the protection offered, ceramic plates, hard ceramic plates front and back, which we'll see as we move this round. Talking about the design overall a little bit more before we start moving this around and looking at the various features, you obviously have a cloth cover over a ballistic nylon filler, which is, I believe, 22 layers on the main part of the body, going down to 12 over the shoulders, so it's a bit thinner over the shoulders. It removes the adjustment on each side with lacing, as we'll see as we move it around, and gives a better overall protection to the torso from that regard. There's also no fastening down the front, and then you have the plates, as I say, to give that extra protection. And these are mounted in quite an interesting manner. If I just unzip each side here, the plate is carried in a pocket on the front, which itself can be lowered down to reveal this sort of opening just below the neckline here. This is basically to allow the vest to be put on over the head. So it does open up at the side here, as we'll see as we move it round, but the idea of this is you open it up and put it on over the head, and then tighten it around the body and then pull the plate up. And we can see that here in some original footage, this being done, the plate being pulled up and zipped into place. This was originally introduced in 1981. It progressively replaced the preceding designs of body armour through the 1980s. By 1983, it really officially had replaced the earlier designs, obviously based on American practice, the two different patterns which were around at the time. By that point, of course, most were wearing a three-quarter collar version of the earlier designs, often with the shoulder stops and so forth. But this had replaced those. The reason we can't look at this on the mannequin with a whole load of other kit and equipment and uniform is the fact that it's actually designed to be worn underneath the combat smock, so a little bit less obvious in that regard. The previous designs of body armour had been worn over the combat smock. This is designed to be worn underneath, although it's fairly obvious if you're wearing one of these underneath your combat smock. It's very bulky, so it's still obvious that someone's wearing something bulky underneath the combat smock. It's not particularly covert from that point of view. And with the introduction of the Mark VI helmet in the 1980s, this represented a big step forward in protection for British troops deployed as part of Operation Banner. And of course the Mark VI could be worn with a riot visor, as you can see here, and the protector for the nape of the neck, which velcroed into the back of the helmet. You can see those in use here. So the last thing to look at on the front of the mannequin here is just two external labels. We'll have a look at the internal label in a minute. We have two external labels here, and as you can see, these read "for removal of garment, in emergency cut cover at shoulders and undo press studs on the filler." So I'm not going to open this up to show the filler because the cover is a little bit fragile and it's a pain to do. But the cover and the filler can actually be removed by cutting the cover here and unfastening the shoulders. There's a thinner section with press studs over the shoulder here, which means that this can be removed in an emergency rather than trying to pull it over someone's head. So we'll move this around now and have a look at the other features of this as we move it around on the mannequin. So you can see, looking at the side profile here, we don't have any of the adjustment, none of the lacing and so forth at the side here, which means you have a little bit more protection in that regard, as well as not having the opening down the front. So it gives better all-round protection to the torso. And you can see the plates front and back in their mirrored carriers. It's essentially the same system on the rear, just without the zips. So we'll move this around now and have a look at the back. At the back here, you can see the mirrored plate positioning on the rear here. This is essentially designed to protect the heart. And for that reason it's slightly offset, as you can see. So the plates are removable, and we'll have a look at those in a little bit more detail in just a minute. We'll turn this around now and have a look at the right hand side. Looking at the right hand side here, you can see the method by which this opens up. We have a Velcro strip, which is a strip of that loose here, and then it carries on underneath the armour. Open that up there, and you can see there's a section here which doubles over to provide protection to the side there where this join is made, and you can see the strips of the pile on the front there where this velcros across. So you don it over the head and then just velcro it in place around the side like that. Again, with that doubling over of the section here, it does give some greater all-round protection than the earlier designs with the lacing and the gap down the sides. We'll have a look at the plates in more detail now, but just before that I'll just show you a close-up of the operation of the pouch on the front. So you have a zip left and right, and then this velcros in place, as you can see there. It's made of nylon, this pouch on the outside, with reinforcements at the corners, as you can see there, and then the plate is simply held in place by two pieces of velcro at the top. The plates literally just slide in and out, and they're neatly labelled to show you which way these should be fitted. So the front and rear plates are identical. These are the early examples, which are square and flat, as you can see. They're Mark II plates for use with the Mark II body armour. Protective plate armour body Mark II, as you can see there. These were then replaced with a one which was rounded at the corners and shaped to fit better against the body. As you can see, these plates are flat. They don't have any curve to them at all to fit better against the body. And they're very square at the corners. The ceramic plate inside a nylon outer, which is obviously has this yellow printing on it. And this was an issue, as the corners were actually quite vulnerable to damage, which can reduce the integrity of the plate and its effectiveness and its design role. You can see the details here of the stamping. It's quite an early example, actually dated 81, as you can see there. So we have the batch number with the date at the end there. You can see some of the markings on there, but obviously with the individual stock number at the top there, NATO stock number at the top there as well. So that's the markings you see on these early ones, and as I say, they are big square lumps of ceramic plate, basically, to offer that extra protection. Another thing we'll look at here just before concluding the video is the internal label, and you can see this is Cover Body Armour Mark II, size medium, with the NATO stock number beneath that, for use with Body Armour Mark II, which refers to the filler, which has its own NATO stock number underneath that. And then you have the user instructions laid out down below, which I'll allow you to read at your leisure should you wish to. You can pause here should you wish to read those. So overall, a big step forward in protection, ballistic protection for British soldiers in Northern Ireland. Interesting feature of the plates as well, talking to David Sayer in some of the interviews I've conducted with him, particularly those talking about his tours in Northern Ireland, it was not uncommon for the rear plate to actually cause issues of wear and tear on the internal lining of the smock, or actually on the cloth of the smock itself. So it was not uncommon to find smocks with an extra piece stitched in just over that, over the shoulders there, to prevent this from wearing on the smock and causing undue wear and tear. So that's just an interesting, something you'll see sometimes in smocks from the period. They're slightly modified in that regard to deal with having to wear these underneath them. I also want to say a big thank you as well here to Matthew Broad, a friend of mine who collects body armour and is very knowledgeable on the topic. It's sort of one of his focuses of collecting, and he's very kindly provided me with some of the information for this video. So thank you very much indeed, Matthew. It's much appreciated, and expanded my own knowledge of this, which is always good as well. It's good to know as much as possible about the items in your collection. So there we are. I hope you found it interesting looking at this. If you have and you'd like to see more from the channel, please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, little notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below, and as ever, a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. It's greatly appreciated, as I always say. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down there as well. But that's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.